Hey guys, and welcome back to the full-time travel planning series. And in today's video, we're going to be deciding whether you should go ahead and store your stuff or whether you should sell your stuff. In this video, we're going to be going ahead and talking about a few different moving tips which are already applicable if you're even moving into another location before you even start traveling the world full-time. So by the end of this video, you're going to have a few tips for you to go ahead and use when you move out of your place. We're going to have some calculations for you to think about whether you should sell or store your stuff, and you're going to have an overall better idea of what are some of those things you should check off and make sure you have out of the way before you move out of your place.
So this is one of the first steps of getting ready to travel full-time is you gotta get all your stuff either sold off or in a storage unit. And that is what we're working on today here. Everything is getting boxed up, tossed, donated, or sold. Let's go.
So the first thing I want to mention here is making sure you cancel any subscriptions you have. And so what I mean by that is whether you have utilities, cable, internet, any of those that you need to go ahead and cancel because you're moving out of a location, put a reminder in your phone or somewhere that you're going to remember or is going to remind you, and that way you can make sure you pay the final bill. There was one time out of probably 20 times, maybe 15 times that I've moved from place to place, that somehow, some way, there was one utility bill, like, I don't know, $30. It was something tiny. But somehow I never ended up paying that $30, and it went on my credit report and gave me this derogatory mark like I didn't pay for it, and which I didn't, because it took me years to even realize that that was on my credit report. I was pretty young, so I didn't check my credit report as consistently as I do now. But my point here is you don't want your bills to go to collections just because you accidentally forgot to pay, so put that reminder in there. On the note of subscriptions, we've kind of talked about this in the last episode here, but just take a look at what your subscriptions are. Do you have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Spotify, Apple TV, all of those? You have so many subscriptions when you're living at home, right? I mean, there's all these different things that are quite easy to subscribe to, and maybe some things you've even forgot about. So one thing I recommend for you to do is there's this service that I'm going to put a link in the description to, which actually connects to your banking information, and it can figure out what are all your subscriptions. So that way you can see an aggregated list of all your subscriptions, and it's very easy to say, wow, I'm spending a couple $100s on subscriptions per month. Maybe it's time to scale back, especially when I'm traveling the world. So I don't know if this is available all across the world. For those of you where you cannot use this service, I just recommend taking your bank statements and taking a look at what are the subscriptions you have, and do you actually need them? Are they even going to work once you're abroad? And maybe clear some of those out. They're small costs, but those add up over a year. Paying $10 for something 12 times per year, that's $120. Times that by 5, look how much money you're spending on subscriptions. They sneak up on you, trust me. Another thing, I like to save money in any possible way I can. I'll just be completely honest. I always want to try and get the same quality as other people, but I want to have figured out a way, legally and morally right, to be able to not spend that same amount of money. And what I mean by that is, I know I need to move, but I'm not going to go and call the most expensive shipping company that calls themselves the white glove shipping company. What I'm going to do is figure out how can I piecemeal this project together to get it as cheap as possible. So let me take moving as an example, because it's obviously this video's theme. What I'll start doing before I move is I've been living in apartment buildings, and so I would start collecting boxes in the recycling area, obviously not in like a garbage area where it's dirty, but I would pick up some of the boxes, and I would do that over the course of about a week or two before I moved. And that saves me, I don't know, between 50 and 100 bucks with how many boxes a lot of the times I've needed to move. And so I'll stockpile that like a week before the move day. In addition, then as I get those boxes, I can start filling up stuff, and so I can kind of take the moving process a little bit, piece by piece. So that's step one, get the boxes. Step two then is to go ahead and rent a truck. Once again, there's two options. You can go the white glove service where someone brings you a truck, they bring you boxes, and they bring you people to fill it up. And then you pay an exorbitant amount of money. I'm reminding you that again because I want to once again break down my process and how I save money but still think I achieved just about the same quality for a fraction of the price. I pick up my U-Haul. I drive this. So I drive it to my apartment I'm moving from. And then I outsource people, whether I have friends that want to make a couple extra bucks, or I can use services like TaskRabbit, where I can go ahead and find local labor for, depending on the place where I'm moving to and from, maybe between $10 and $25 per hour, where I can hire a couple people to go ahead, come for 2 hours, fill up the truck, I'll drive it to the next location, and then I'll pay another set of 2 people once I get there 2 hours to unload it. Now, what I did there was, now I'm not paying for someone to do the drive time from point A to point B, because I'm using 2 separate groups of people. I used the U-Haul that I drove and got it for very cheap. But I still pretty much had all of my moving done for me. And then of course, like I said at the beginning, I picked up those boxes. So for my last move, let's take for example, I had 2 guys in the morning, 2 guys in the evening, and that was a total of 8 hours worth of work that I paid someone. And so that was $160. I paid $100 for the U-Haul. Now I just paid $260. The boxes were free. $260 to move my stuff. Quite cheap, right? If I would have paid a service to do that, it would have been between $2,000 to $4,000 easily, depending on how nice of a service it was. Now you're probably hearing me like, you could have done that cheaper, you could have done it yourself. Well, if I can pay someone else to do it, and then I can take that time that I would have spent moving and put it towards something that can make me money, or I can work on, or a project, then for me that's more valuable because I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, that gives you a pretty good idea on what my general process is for moving. I wanted to just share how I've moved in the past because that might be very beneficial for you if you're still going to be moving between now and the time you travel. When I had first moved to Washington, D.C., I was moving down from Wisconsin, so it's about 12 hours away. It would have cost me quite a bit of money to move all my stuff. And so when I was living in Wisconsin, I went ahead and sold all of my stuff, besides, clothes and a couple other essentials. Basically, I had 2 suitcases. Because I knew once I got to my location, I would go to the local IKEA and I would buy everything new. Most of it would be covered by the money that I just sold my old stuff back in Wisconsin for. So when I got to DC with those 2 suitcases, I was able to then go to IKEA, pick up all my furniture for maybe $1,200 US. I'd probably made $800 selling my stuff back in Wisconsin. And then I didn't pay for probably at least $1,000 of what it would cost me to move from Wisconsin to DC. So as you can see there was a pretty big savings for me in order to buy new. Now I understand that's not easy for everyone if you have sentimental value attached to things. It's not a perfect situation for everyone, but it's just something I wanted you to consider as one way to do it and as one way you can save money. And for me, I like getting new stuff too, but I don't like to pay a lot of money. So if I'm able to sell most of the stuff and then offset it and then still get new stuff, I'm like, this is a win-win-win. The next point I want to touch on is getting to the bottom line question of this video, which is, should you store or sell your stuff? Because to be honest, I needed to do some calculations first before I actually realized that storing my stuff was going to be expensive. Holding on to those things that I wasn't fully attached to or super emotionally connected to was going to cost me quite a bit of money. And if I wasn't that attached to them anyways, plus it's going to cost me money, why would I want to store it? Before you make that decision, think about a couple questions. Are you emotionally connected to it? Do you care that much about all this stuff, or are there just a few specific pieces that you want to hold on to? Are you going to be traveling for a long period of time, like over a year or close to a year? Will you be buying a bunch of new stuff when you return home? These are all a bunch of questions I want you to think about because that's going to help you with your decision, not just the financials we're going to talk about. Now let's relate this back to travel. You're coming to the day when you're deciding, I'm going to begin traveling. You have all those questions we just talked about in mind. Now let's try and break down what the calculations would be if you were to store all of your stuff. And let's say you're going to travel for 1 year. So taking my example earlier in this video, let's say it costs roughly $250 doing my cost-efficient way for you to pick up the rental truck, for you to hire someone to move your stuff, and to get those free boxes. So $250 you just spent to move your stuff into the storage unit. Now I'm paying just under $200 per month for my storage unit outside of Washington, D.C. $200, and I'm planning to travel for 12 months. That's $2,400 just for storing my stuff, plus the $250 I paid to move it there. So that brings us to $2,650, right? Now when I return home, there's a good chance I'll probably move somewhere at least 6 to 12 hours away. So you could probably add another $600 onto my moving expenses at least, maybe $1,000. To be honest, I'd say $1,000 to be safe, because when you drive those rental trucks far, that's when you pay a pretty penny. So let's bring this to $3,000. That is for me to not gain anything. All I'm getting is my same stuff that I had when I left the United States to go travel to when I return. Now the nice part is I have everything. I have everything to go furnish a new apartment. I have everything I need. There's literally nothing to consider buying. But that cost me over $3,000 to just maintain what I owned. Is everything even in there worth over $3,000? And especially if I don't care about it, do I really want to invest that much more into what I already own? Or let's say you don't have to pay any of that money, which it brings us to the flip side, selling all of your stuff. This is an important point to remember. That just over $3,000 that you would have opened your wallet to spend, you're no longer spending. Additionally, you might be able to pick up, let's say, $1,500 from selling all of your stuff. So you just saved just over $3,000, plus you have $1,500 in cash now. You can take that $1,500, put it in a side account, have that available to buy new stuff when you return, and that $3,000 and something that you would have had to spend, put that $3,000 and something in that same bank that you would have spent to move your stuff and store your stuff. Now you're looking at almost $5,000, just over $5,000 that you're able to use to furnish everything brand new. It comes back to it as, is it sentimental or is it not? Then money talks, at least it does for me. I'm not saying sell every last piece of everything, your watch you have, your clothing, your vest, your, sentimental necklace, all these things. No, but here's the thing. If you have just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes maybe, 1 or 2 suitcases, it's going to be much easier for you to ask a friend, a family member, someone who has some extra space, if you can leave those items in maybe a tucked away spot in their basement, or if someone you know has a storage unit where they'll just let you shove those boxes in, it's gonna be much easier to do that and not incur any costs. So that gives you the option to keep some of those things that you care most about. That for me makes the most sense. Now that I'm not traveling with my girlfriend anymore, when I grab my stuff out of the storage unit, I'm probably gonna do a similar strategy. I only have a small amount of that stuff that is actually mine, probably maybe 6 to 10 boxes. I might get rid of a few items, and then I'm gonna see if I can store them with a friend or a family member so I don't have to pay all this money every single month. Remember when I said that plan was for 12 months of storage? I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be traveling much longer than 12 months. Did I know that when I first took over that storage unit? No. I was like, I don't know what a year from now is going to be like. And to be honest, a year from now, I might be living in Bali for a month. I might be in Thailand for a month. I might be staying there for a year. I don't really know. I don't want to have gone by a year or 2 years or 3 years and paid storage all of that time. Think about $200 per month for storage for 3 years. That's $7,200 US. That can fund you traveling for almost a year if you're traveling in low cost of living like Southeast Asian countries. That's a lot of money you just saved. Now guys, I will say I'm using an example from Washington, D.C. I don't know if you'll actually pay $200 a month for storage. That was for a storage unit that housed a 1-bedroom, full set of stuff, and it wasn't even completely full, so we could have gotten a few more things. So I'd say that storage unit could probably handle a 2-bedroom apartment. There are creative ways you can do it where you can sell some of your stuff, keep some of your stuff, keep those costs pretty low, or you can keep all of it if you want to keep it for the ease of just not needing to go and reset up your life when you come back. You just need to go ahead and write down what's important to you. And so guys, that pretty much wraps up this video. One thing I want to mention though guys, if you haven't had a chance to check out our course workbook, which is a massive 60+ page workbook that has actionable step-by-step assignments for you to do in order to get your whole project, if you will, of full-time traveling in a very, very digestible, understanding way for you to tackle it. So specifically, I'm bringing it up in this episode because we have an exclusive move out checklist that we include in here, which goes into way more detail than this video did on every single thing you should think about when you're moving out of your place. We also have a very helpful breakdown to help you figure out what it's going to cost you to store your stuff versus sell your stuff. So just another reason why this course workbook will take your travel planning really to the next step. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I at least found a couple things that'll be helpful for you to save some money, for you to help brainstorm what makes sense for you to sell versus store your stuff. Now, in the next video, in episode 13, we are going to be doing it a little bit differently, and I'm quite excited for this one. In that episode, we're going to be talking about a bunch of different ways that you can make money now, ways that you can make money to help you achieve your goal of traveling the world full time. I'm really excited about this episode specifically because we have a few special guests that have been successful with some of these money-making opportunities who are going to be guest speakers in the video. I think it'll be a fun way for other experts in these types of topics to go ahead and speak on what type of success they've had, which will hopefully help you to make extra money during your journey for full-time travel planning. So guys, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos upcoming like this. We'll have so much great content coming out in the next couple months. And if you guys have liked this video, give it a thumbs up. It'll help other viewers like you find this video and be able to connect with their full-time travel planning. Thank you guys, and see you in the next video.